America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do I have a motion regarding the minutes of the January 19th meeting as presented in your packets?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Laura, second from Justin.
Do I hit mine?
You can just go down.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're trying to get our other two members. Brad and Tiff are unable to attend this evening.
Please enter your access code followed by the pound or hash sign. To enable audio control, please enter your audio PIN followed by the pound or hash sign. If you
Tiffany? I'm not hearing.
Hi.
Hi, Tiffany. Welcome aboard. I assume that it's you. And there's Brad. Okay.
Hi, Mary.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us remotely. We have begun the meeting. Present are myself, Annette, Bart, and Justin. Derek, our borough engineer, is also here, as is Sharon, the planning officer, planning zoning officer. To this point, we have...
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. Happy Mardi Gras.
To this point, we have approved minutes of last month's meeting. We are about to get into the zoning hearings. The first one being 212 Locust Street, High Impact Realty. And we do have a representative here this evening. If you would care to come to the mic, identify yourself.
Am I allowed to take the mask off or not with all this up?
Take it all.
Take it all.
I'm Dave Towers, one of the owners of High Impact Realty.
Yes. And you are here this evening for the property located at 212 Locust Street.
Correct. Yes, and we have Mike Grob helping us out as well, but he let us know ahead of time. He was unable to be here tonight, but will be here for the zoning board meeting.
Okay, and what you are requesting, it's an existing 2-unit apartment building, to first floor commercial space and 2-unit apartment, add a new single apartment unit to the existing carriage house at the rear of the property, for at that location a total of a commercial space and 3 apartment units on the property.
Correct.
And you are going to zoning to request, I gotta read through this. Sharon, right off.
I think it's, well, Sharon's not even sure, but I think it's because it's going to share 2 different uses on the first floor.
Correct.
Is that the reason?
Correct.
You had said to me that you weren't really prepared to present tonight, that you don't even know.
Well, and so I have the information from Mike, the kind of 2-pager as well, and I'm certainly prepared to present that. I didn't print off all the documents that you have, so I don't know quite what you have in front of you.
They're up on the screen.
Perfect.
So we have your application.
Okay. Yeah, and I can kind of give the quick rundown. You will find I do not know all the lawyers speak, so I don't know kind of quite what to reference, but I certainly can cast the vision to you guys of what we hope to do.
Okay.
And yes, so the quick rundown is right now it is simply 2 residential units. Do you have, the easiest way to explain it, I think, is there a kind of layout up there of the property? Yes. No, well, yeah, keep going down through, it's a markup.
We only have these two.
Okay, so the property, we'll kind of get to these two. The property right now, there's 2 buildings, and the 2 residential units are both on the building that are right up against Locust Street. And so the front, it's kind of, the front building is split into 2. The first was a 3-floor residential unit. And there's a part that looks like it should be a commercial, and it would be a great commercial spot. But it currently has been used as residential, but I believe it has been zoned for commercial. So we actually, when we put new tenants in, we fixed up the 2nd and 3rd floor very nice, but we kind of just put off, and Dom can attest, we put a door in that basically that commercial space they do not have access to, and it would be a wonderful little commercial space. So if you go one slide before that, this is what the commercial space is and what it would look like. And so you can see there, it's 1st floor. It kind of has a storefront look to it already. And it is there and it is ready to be a commercial storefront. If you say that we can't have this as a commercial spot in the 3rd unit, then we would basically give it back to the tenants and we would increase rent. They are aware that currently it's not for their use. But we could go back to using it for residential. A big part of what we want to do in general in our company is we want to work with you guys and give you guys what you want to. And I know that especially in this kind of prime location, you guys are looking for commercial storefronts. And so that's part of what we are hoping to do with this. And it is ready, it's as seen. I mean, Don, I don't think we do a whole lot more to it. It's ready to go as a commercial space.
Are we back to the issue that has been before us previously, where the amount of commercial space on the 1st floor in the downtown commercial is not defined as a particular size space?
To some degree, yes. So the previous building we were here for was zoned fully as commercial. This is actually currently fully residential. There is currently 0 commercial space in it. And when we walked in, when I first walked through, the place was in decent shape. We did a lot of work to it, but we thought the zoning hearing board, the committee really wants commercial spaces. It was just set up already to be able to say, hey, we put in one wall, and that is clearly there now that we can add commercial for you. And I guess when, again, I don't know the lawyer talk in the articles, but I guess it is zoned that it can be used as commercial now. And so this is partly our way of saying we've got a spot that we think you'd probably like us to use one way, and this is part of our way of bringing it forth.
Because it is now, it is downtown commercial zone, which allows for commercial on the 1st floor.
Correct. And it currently had no commercial on it. It was strictly 2 residential units. So we're hoping to actually add a commercial for you guys.
What's the, oh, go ahead.
For us too, I mean, you know, it'll make a nice looking building too, and it's a nice looking commercial space, so.
Under the proposed condition, what's the square footage of the dwelling units and the commercial space?
Yeah, so let me talk a little bit. So the building we're talking about is kind of split straight up and down. The back is a 2-floor residential. We're not really touching it. It's staying what it is. We went in, we rehabbed it. It looks great now. It's a high-end residential unit. What we did in the front is we took the 2nd and 3rd floor, and it is still residential. And I don't know quite what it is, but it's probably 1,000 to 1,500 square feet. It's still very substantial. On the 2nd floor, which is kind of the main living floor, you have a nice open kitchen living area. You have a laundry room area, so they all have washer and dryer in the individual units. And then you go up to, there's a small office or 3rd bedroom right there, but then you go up to the 3rd floor and there's a huge bathroom, 2 nice sized bedrooms, like a nice open area there when you come up. So they are they're both still large. Both those are still over 1,000 square feet.
Gotcha.
And they're cool looking. This building like has a lot of really neat looking stuff that we kept the stuff that is historic and looks awesome, and we just updated the stuff that wasn't working very well. So
What's the, is there any off-street parking?
currently there is not, so that is part of our proposal
Gotcha.
here.
Okay.
So what we've been talking about is the front building. In the back, there's a carriage house.
Yeah.
And so that is part of, these drawings are the carriage house in the back. So my vague understanding is this was kind of illegally probably used as, or at least prepared to be a residential unit in the past. It has a dishwasher in it, 1.5 baths. And I walked in and I was like, wait, this place isn't currently being used as residential. And I was told, no, it's not zoned that way. So part of what we were hoping to do is get it zoned this way. We have also been in touch with the neighbor that attaches to this property, and we can have 2 parking spots right there. So in this back carriage house, the people really wouldn't even be seen. They'd be parking right next door, walking through the gate, and they'd be right into the carriage house. It's also a little strange because the carriage house, I got into the plot of land a little bit later, but the lot doesn't take out all the way back to the alley. The lot goes maybe 3/4 of the way back, but then it doesn't actually make its way back to the alley. There's like a little easement that otherwise they'd come in on. And so I don't know that it would be a great commercial spot anyway. And with the 2 parking spots, it's perfect for residential. We actually have a tenant that really wants it if it gets approved, and it'll be a higher end building as well. You can see it's 2 floors, and then there's kind of an additional storage space up top. And actually, there's even a washer and dryer up there already as well. So it's going to be it's going to be a really cool residential building as well.
Is the carriage house completely detached from the building?
Yeah, so yeah, you have the front, so you have the 2 parts of the front building, and then there's a good little yard there, and then the carriage house is in the back. But then there's somebody else, like an L shape in there that takes up the frontage back to the alley. And so you can see the layout. This is not what we want it to be. This is how it already is. So we're going to be replacing and updating like the dishwasher. I don't know if it works or not. Obviously the bathrooms we're going to be sprucing up. But it isn't even changing a layout. It's not really doing anything crazy to the carriage house. We're hoping to make it legitimate by coming through you guys though, rather than whatever was done previously.
So that's what these photographs are of?
Correct. Yeah, so you probably see a few pictures there of the commercial space. So where there's like finished hardwood, that is the commercial space. Where there is some brick and then even some larger planks that are unfinished, that's the carriage house. And then the one picture in there is just going to be the 3rd floor of the carriage house where there's like a washer and just blatantly set up for a residential unit.
So the one picture we have here that looks like it's looking out to Locust.
Yes.
That is the intended commercial space.
Correct. Yes, that is accurate. And sorry, this was the main disconnect. I didn't know exactly what you were looking at in what order, so.
Well, we have 2 different packs of
Yeah.
pictures here. And it seems like the one is the carriage house.
That makes sense.
Okay.
So on the first floor, you want to have it be shared commercial and an apartment as well. So how much of the space would be for commercial?
Yes, great question. I think it ends up being a little over 700 square feet. The layout, when you're looking at the building, is most of the building on the first floor there would be the commercial space. You can walk in a door to the left that puts you into a little vestibule, and then from there you could either go right into the commercial space, or you could go through a separate door, which takes you primarily up to the 2nd floor, but then there's a little hallway there as well that goes down to the basement. That's part of residential. So it's kind of a vestibule, and the stairwell going up and down is the only part that would not be commercial. And again, it's currently residential. In theory, right now, the first floor is all residential too. But we know it has been approved to be commercial, and that's why we'd partly like to change it to commercial.
So the other drawing that we have here, Sharon, the one that says Unit 1, new,
Straight above it, I believe, the one screen
I have to
above
go
it.
up here, this one.
yeah.
So, yep,
So is that what is living space? Is that where you are looking at putting the commercial?
correct, yep, this would be the commercial space, yes. So the living space, so I apologize, it is less than that, so
So it's
they don't give any of the major dimensions there. So you can see the whole thing is 13 and a half feet wide, and then they don't give the full thing there, so.
So do the closet and the back go away if that is turned into commercial?
We certainly could. I think that we would work with whoever gets in there. We are talking with a guy that would be looking to start just like a 2-chair barber shop. It would end up being something kind of small like that there's room for. I apologize. Yes, it is certainly short of, I think the 700 includes the back unit as well, which again is, there's no making the whole first floor. It's like you have a front apartment and a back. You'd have to do something crazy to make the whole first floor the commercial.
So then what else is left on the first floor?
Just what you see to the left there. So you can see on the left, you can see the vestibule,
Right.
and then you can see the other door leads to the stairways going up. Now, there's the back half of this building that
Right.
you're not seeing here. But it's almost like there's two houses built together that clearly separates the front half of the building from the back half of the building. Where there's no throughway, from what I can see, there has never been you get from the front to the back. It's almost more like two buildings, because even the front's 3 floors and the back is 2 floors. And I think it's a brick wall in between the two of them.
Looks like it was an addition at some point. Probably not, the rear part of the property probably isn't original.
I have a question. So the existing vestibule,
Uh-huh.
who would go in that door?
So what we have done, and this is one of just our nicer higher end things, the front door that you can see where you enter the building, we put a code lock on all of them. So it's only the business owner and the tenants that get into that vestibule. From there, going into the right, into the commercial space, the business owner would have their own key and lock in there. And then just the residential tenants have the key to the one on the left that goes up to the residential unit.
And public access to the business would be directly off Locust Street.
Yep, so the door into the living space from Locust Street.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know that the commercial would actually even use the door on the left at all. The goal would be for them not to, but we would certainly give the business owner the code to get into that vestibule. And there would be 2 ways out then, and it just gives it a little bit of a nicer feel too.
So there is what other space is on that first floor?
This is all that you see in the front part of the building that's on that first floor.
Okay, so there is nothing else on the first floor.
So you have the front of the building, which is what you're seeing there, and then you have a brick wall that goes all the way through where they've never been connected.
Okay.
And then in the back, you have the 2-story, the other rental apartment. So there is a first floor on it's confusing, the back half of the front building.
All right.
But this is basically all that you see that you'd be able to access without blowing a hole through a brick wall that clearly has never been attached before.
So basically what you are going to zoning for is to allow for the commercial use on the first floor.
And to put a residential.
And to put a residential unit
Carriage house.
in the carriage house.
Yep.
And that you have already arranged for parking for the tenants in the additional rental unit.
That is correct.
Because you have existing rental units there, which I hope I'm correct in saying that you would not have to be involved with parking for those since they already exist and had already been allowed. It's just the carriage house that you need the parking for.
That's my understanding. My understanding is for every additional residential, you need 2 spots, which would be right next door. They would walk right there. They wouldn't be coming from the front. They wouldn't even be coming from the alley. They'd be coming in and out, and really no one else would see them. My understanding is by adding the commercial, 2 spaces on the main road, in theory, come with that. So I don't quite understand how that works, but my understanding is we wouldn't need spots for the commercial space.
I don't think that's.
Again, I apologize, that's Dave Powers speak, not the Brewer speaks.
Okay, any more discussion here?
Well, can I add just one
Mary,
more
may
thing?
I just add?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
No,
Yes,
go ahead.
Tiffany, jump in.
Hi, this is Tiffany. I just wanted to say that I really appreciate that you're trying to incorporate a commercial property on the first floor and also to have the high-end residential. And especially also that you put parking in place, since that seems to be an issue with our downtown commercial. But the architectural details look really great, so I love that as well. And I would recommend, when you're ready for that, that the planning commission approves or, make a motion that we recommend for this project in favor of it.
Okay, we will get to that, Tiff. I think he has another comment for us here.
Yeah,
Just a second.
just the last point, I appreciate your input there. So the carriage house in the back would, honestly, I think it would cause problems if it was made commercial, just because then you'd have people not knowing where to park, not knowing how to get there. It would just be kind of weird. The other thing is if we couldn't make it commercial or residential, then honestly, we'd have a building that we'd have no incentive to take care of and to upkeep, and it would kind of become a dilapidated building. Like, we'd keep it safe, but there's really cool, the pictures in there, I hope you can see, it's gonna be an awesome building, like an awesome kind of old school building. But it's gonna be great, and that's why the people that we know knew about the building that want to use it as tenants, and they're like, that thing would be awesome, like we want it, and they're great tenants for us already in a different house. So, yeah, it would be great, that's kind of long and short of it.
Thank you. Any discussion here with members of the planning commission?
I do have a quick question.
Go
I was
ahead.
wondering if you're trying to have the business owner be the same as a tenant, because, owner occupied, so to speak, for the business and the rental property, or are you trying to keep it completely separate?
Yeah, unfortunately, we have enough properties that they are separate. We don't live in or use any of the commercial spaces currently. Down the road, we might. Honestly, we're still a pretty young business. As we get some cash flow coming in, I think we do hope to be a presence really downtown here and in a couple other places. But right now, it is strictly tenant occupied, it's not owner occupied.
I think, Tef, was your way of thinking whether whoever had the commercial property would also be a tenant in one of the rental units? Is that where you?
Yes.
That's where you were going.
That certainly is an option.
Yes, that's what I was wondering.
Gotcha. To be honest, from the start, it probably would not, because the 2 tenants that we have in, again, it's residential, it's zoned, we've gone through all those steps properly, but neither of them want the commercial space. I guess maybe whoever would put in the carriage house could want the commercial space as well. We certainly could offer it.
Okay. Any further discussion from the table here?
My only concern is, and you really can't do anything about it, but that space is very small. Very, very small. And if you said about a barber shop, you'd have to put in plumbing.
Well, so there's the toilet and stuff in there already. We would need to rerun some plumbing, certainly. And it wouldn't be a 10-chair barber shop, it would be a 2 or 3-chair barber shop. It is going to be a smaller commercial space, and I don't think there's much we can do about that. But the store frontage will be very nice looking too, and it'll be very evident. It's not going to be tucked away.
Okay, if we have no further discussion here, I believe Tiffany has already made a motion to recommend to the zoning hearing board the approval of the application for first floor commercial at 212 Locust Street with residential in the carriage house located to the rear of the property with provisions for 2 parking spaces for the carriage house property. Am I saying that correctly, Tiffany?
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so I have the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from Justin. Do we have any further comment? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, motion carries 6-0.
Thank you very much, guys. We truly are looking to work with you guys, so we appreciate it.
Thank you, hope it works out
Thank you.
for you.
Okay, next on our agenda is 307, 309, 315 Locust Street by 315 Locust Street LLC. This being the properties located directly across the street from us. The former Hotel Columbia and Hotel Locust.
So we have a PowerPoint presentation. Can we hook up our laptop?
Yeah, I just have to take.
Give you a thumb drive, whichever. Ben, by the way.
Hey, Ben, Sharon. It's not one. Hold on. Which one is it?
It's,
This one?
yes, that's right.
The second one? Right here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tiff, we're being presented with hard copies of the presentation here. I will ask them to leave 2, and we will see that they get up to you and Brad, that you can review them at some point. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
We're ready. We've been ready.
Are you ready for something to happen on this property? Finally, the day's
Finally.
come. So we're really excited to be able to introduce this and kick this off with the public meeting here on planning. But what we have is the 3 properties, 307, 309, and 315 Locust Street, formerly the old hotels, Hotel Locust and Hotel Columbia. I have Ben Deppen from Speedwell Construction with me, and Brent Good from ELA Civil Engineers. So what we're looking to do and what we're going to present this evening is a project where we will be doing some demo work in the rear of the property, but maintaining the 2 original historic hotels in the front, and rehabbing and repairing and revealing the historic character of the facades of those 2 buildings. The small jewelry store that is located on the far left there next to the 2 hotels would be taken down, along with the buildings in the rear of the old hotels, and we'll get to that in a little bit, showing you the condition of those buildings. So what we're proposing to do here is build a new structure on the back part connecting to the remaining historic buildings that will house 37 market rate apartments, which would consist of 21 2-bedroom apartments and 16 1-bedroom apartments. They're not huge. They're designed for couples, young professionals. We've had some studies where we found a lot of need and demand by young active adults and retired folks, mainly being drawn here between York and Lancaster, and the river and the trail, and there's even chatter already about the upcoming market house. So we're creating that thriving downtown, and we're having people that are interested in paying a fair amount of money for good apartments that would be able to spend their money in the downtown, which will help all the businesses and create the revitalization that we've been working so hard towards. The two first floor spaces of the old hotels will remain as a commercial storefront that will be available for lease. They'll be rehabilitated on the inside and built to suit depending on the needs of the tenant. We haven't secured any tenants yet, but that's the intention for those two storefronts. The upper levels of those two buildings will also be converted from hotel rooms into apartments. That will tie in with the new structure in the back. We will have parking that is accessed from the alley, Avenue H, into the back that will go underneath the new building. So we'll have on-site parking for 25 spaces. That's about all that I have at the moment. I want to turn it over to Brent, or I'm sorry, Ben, or whoever wants to go first, and then we'll go through the PowerPoint presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Don. We're going to concentrate on the first slides are the civil engineer drawings. If you could advance that, please. This is just a cover sheet for the zoning hearing exhibit. Again, this is a downtown commercial district right across the street. It's about, we're talking about the 3 properties. You can advance to the next one, please. It's 3 properties, so we're going to be extinguishing the middle property lines and create 1 lot. So the lot will be about 1/3 of an acre. And again, it's 307, 309, and 315 combined together. You could advance to the next one. And so this shows the shading areas, what would be the proposed footprint of the building on the 1 lot. Where the jewelry store is at 307, we're looking, that would be offset back in a little bit as a little bit of a courtyard area with a sidewalk to an entrance on that left side. And looking at some of our utilities, there's public water and sewer, of course, on Locust Street that would come in. Going to the next slide is the general grading plan. This is just representative of some of the existing grades. We're going to be submitting a land development plan which will show some proposed grading. There's not going to be much room for that. Obviously, most of the site is the building. But as far as zoning, we are compliant with the bulk regulations. One of the requirements is that from a coverage standpoint in the downtown commercial district, that not more than 90% of the lot be covered with building, and in fact we meet that regulation. The site, as you may know, falls from Locust Street is a higher elevation, and then falls down towards the back to the north on Avenue H. That's where the stormwater wants to go. In fact, there's existing stormwater there. We had a brief meeting with staff here, and Derek was there, and so we're going to have to get a little creative with some of the stormwater management, talking about a possible underground cistern to take on some of the roof drainage, to do some things. We'll probably be looking for a few waivers in that area as well because of the difficulty of the site from that standpoint. But moving on, I'll let Ben take you into, well, look, this is the overall, showing you, the grid and the streets surrounding the property, and as we get into potential parking discussion, we can reference back to this map.
All right, yes, this is an aerial shot of the site. The site, if you click one, it'll show where 315 is. And if you click again, that shows the portion of the existing building that will remain the front portion. And then the rest of the site will be demolished to accommodate the new construction for the 37 apartments in the back. This is another shot of the front, and we have labels of the addresses as they are now, and then we'll combine them into one address. And click ahead. It's another straight-on shot of the facade that we're going to revitalize and renovate to keep it looking as it is. Restore it. We're going to remove the fire escape off the front because we're going to add a stair in the back so that you have 2 ways in and out. In between the two, there are doors that go into a vestibule. You'll see that in a plan that go upstairs, similar to the previous project that we looked at, where there's a side entrance and there's a commercial space in the rest of the first floor. So those side entrances are in the middle in between the 2 main buildings there. And there's another side shot. You can kind of see the parts of the existing building that are going to be removed along the back there. You can see the bank in the bottom right corner and the alley in between. And then this is a shot that you can see Avenue H at the bottom, and you can also see the grade change. There's almost a 10-foot difference between Avenue H and Locust Street. So that part in the back there, that will be demolished, and then we'll have the new apartments filling that space. You'll see that again in another slide. This is the back of 315. The front part that's going to remain, so we're going to restore that. There's actually going to be a connection in that right dormer. That'll be the connection from the elevator to that 4th floor apartment. And then that fire escape will also be removed. Just showing some of the conditions of the existing building. A lot of water damage, a lot of the mortar and brick. You can see some more slides of that. That has been worn away. A lot of the chimneys, the downspouts aren't connecting, which just creates more and more damage over time. So you can see one of the chimneys that fell apart at the top. There's several chimneys like that. These are drone footage.
I was wondering.
No one was up there taking
Like, who did that?
No. You can click ahead. Another chimney that's suspect, kind of leaning out. And some obvious water damage in the brickwork there. And this is a shot from the other side, from the northwest. You can see 307, the rear of 307, which will be demolished to accommodate the new construction as well. There you can see some of the tin on the roof at the top of the picture has been, I guess, blown back. And then also openings and windows and doors that aren't enclosed anymore. Another shot of 307, and also the rear of 309, the part that's going to be at the top of the page, the part that's going to remain. corner, need to do some brick rework there where the roof hits the wall.
So that would be a portion that remains.
That's the portion that remains, that'll need some work. Yeah. Again, also looking at that side, you can see the Hotel Columbia sign, that will remain. And we'll be putting in a few additional windows along that side for the apartments that each bedroom has a window. And then this is the front corner. You can see some of the tin work at the top needs some work. Things have shifted, so we need to get that corrected as well. And back to the front facade. Now we'll show you, this is as it looks now, and then I think the next slide would be what our proposal is. For 315 along the right, we're proposing to restore the canopy and the first floor commercial facade. And then on the 309, the one in the middle, we're looking to remove the tin that is covering up. There's some cast iron columns and a wood cornice across the top. We'll restore that. And then you can see where 307 is, there's that courtyard that leads back to the apartment entrance. And then this is the shot again of the rear of the property. And then the next slide will show you the build out of the apartments. There's the vehicle entrance into the parking garage off of Avenue H at the bottom of the screen. And then there's safety grills that have openings in them in that parking garage along the sides, so that it's ventilated in the parking garage. There's some other views of the 3D model. The material is, proposed material for the addition is vinyl siding, a couple of different colors and styles. And then this is the layout of the apartments and also the parking garage on the first floor there. So you have on the bottom left is the parking garage, and then it goes first floor. You can see the gold areas are the commercial use spaces. And if you can't read it, it says 860 square feet of commercial space for 315. And then the larger space is a little over 1,100 for commercial space at 309. And the blue represents 2-bedroom apartments, and the cream color are 1-bedroom apartments. Then we can flip forward and you can see a little bit more detail. This is the ground floor that shows 25 parking spaces. We have one handicap space with the van access right by the elevator. There are 2 stair towers. And then there's also a trash room on the bottom left. And then on the right, far right, are the basement areas for the existing building. And those are currently not used. They could be offered to the commercial space tenants for possibly storage. And then we have the first floor. Like I said, the commercial spaces on the right in gold. And then the spaces in between are those vestibule and stair to get up to the apartments on the upper floors. And then the green spaces are the elevator, and then the 2 new stair towers. And you have the entrance off of Locust Street into the vestibule. There's a little mailroom right there, and then the apartment spaces.
So your main entrance off of Locust Street would be through that
Courtyard.
park-like area?
Yeah, through the courtyard. And there's also, if there's residents who have a parking space, they would be coming up through the stair tower, they park their vehicle in the parking garage. And the second floor, now you don't have a commercial space, and above that is a 2-bedroom unit above 309 and a 1-bedroom unit above 315. And then the rest of the back kind of stacked as far as 2-bedroom and 1-bedroom units, they kind of stack the rest of the way up. So if you skip ahead, the 3rd floor looks very similar to the 2nd floor. Basically the same layout. And then the 4th floor, the 309 only has 3 floors, so you don't have an apartment there. And then 315, like I said before in that picture, you have an entrance through that back dormer into the existing 4th floor. So we can move ahead. This is a plan that just shows some of the section cuts that are coming up next through the building. So you can reference that. We can bump ahead. All right, the section on the top left is a section through the new construction. You have the parking garage on the 1st floor, and then the 4 floors of apartments. And then next to that, on the right, you see a section through the stair tower. This is the stair tower that's in between the existing and the new construction. So you can see that it ties in several different floors. And then the bottom section shows you the new construction to the left and the existing to the right. So they have the same number of floors, but the existing floors are higher. The 1st floor is very high, and then for the existing building. And then the other floors above that are higher than the new addition. So that's why we have different elevations for like the stair to connect to. And then these are sections again through the stair tower, also through on the top left, and then through the existing building on the top right. Even those floors in between 309 and 315, they're not exactly at the same elevation. They don't quite match up. So there's a little bit of rework with that as far as the stair towers connecting them. And that's basically what we wanted to show you from the existing conditions and what we propose to do from a planning standpoint.
Yeah, I've walked through the alley a fair amount, maybe not this time of year, but I walked through the alley a fair amount, and the back of the building has always kind of been depressing. So it's really interesting to see how to repurpose the building. Well, at least the front part, which is, I would say, arguably is the most important part for, the downtown.
Right, that was obviously built before, and then there's an obvious addition behind that, so we'd be taking the addition down for the new construction.
And, thinking about how that would ever be redeveloped, it makes more sense now with the additional lot, so you can get a wide building where you have a hallway with apartments on both sides,
Right.
and not the skinny apartments that, there were at one point in time. Yeah. So it's a really interesting way to design it.
I just did not see how
Yeah.
that building, especially that back portion, could be redone.
Yeah.
When I couldn't get into the back, that's my back, I had to walk the drive-through. So there were quite a few times I stood there staring at those balconies and looked at that back of that 4th floor, and even I could see the water damage, the deterioration, and I'm thinking, what can they ever do with this? You know, so I think you've come up with a good plan here. And the thing with the old jewelry store, with demolishing that, the, who was it, URL did the,
Oh, yeah.
when they did that study the other year, one of their things was to put like a pocket park, you know. In that plan, they had to demolish, I don't know if it was particularly that building or if it was both of those buildings where the laundromat was and the jewelry store. But that was part of the plan they came up with, was to demolish that one. So when I saw that here, I thought, wow, we're kind of following some of the things that have already been brought forward, so.
I didn't know the jewelry store went back that far. That's a really long skinny building.
It is. When you look at those buildings from the rear,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, this will make a big difference because the attorney's office and the banks and all that, you know, that looks fine back there. So this will make a really big difference.
I have a
The
question.
foundation of the jewelry store in the back has already started to cave in. And yeah, that's in really bad. I mean, they're all in bad shape. That one in particular is,
I think I know how to.
Are you gonna have a property manager on site?
well, we'll be managing the property as we do our other properties.
You don't think there would be a lot of turnover with that many apartments?
We hope not. It's gonna be nice apartments, so.
Are we looking at something on the order of the bank apartments?
As far as,
As the style and,
yes, the same type of finishes, granite countertops, you know, we're looking at, different flooring, but yeah, the upper scale finishes, obviously.
and I don't know that you have the turnover there, do you?
No, I have a waiting list.
Very good.
Very good.
In 307, when it's a
Yeah, that's
court,
really beautiful.
Thank you.
the courtyard, will it be private property? You know, for the hotel use only?
It would be for the entrance to the apartments.
Okay.
But we're kind of leaving the option open, depending on the tenant that we would secure for that commercial space, on the left side there, that, if they would want an access or a door system on the side of their space, that they could maybe utilize some of that area for a couple tables, some bistro tables, if it were to be like a cafe of some sort, or a table shop, or whatever the use would be. So we're kind of flexible there, with the courtyard, and having that as open space and remain open space, so, gives us the flexibility for that.
I'm glad to hear the fire escape is disappearing off the front of that
Don't
building.
let Leo hear that.
Well, tell him he can take it home with him. How's that?
Yeah. And I noticed in these pictures, it doesn't show where you've torn that metal work off the front there to expose some of that
But yeah, you can see it.
original wood
Yeah.
underneath there.
I love the bright
Oh,
yellow.
yes, it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that old galvanized metal is gone away. And we are considering, we'll have to look at the budget. So for now, the plan is the canopy on the Hotel Locust, but we do have pictures that we found that show the old storefront, or the old wood architectural front that was on that, so we may try to replicate that.
It had, you know, it had the ridges in it.
Has columns and everything.
Yes.
What's there now is the rough brick that they use behind those types of things. So the wood was removed at some point, that made those nice, you know, had the corbels and all that.
Right.
Yeah, all the detail is really nice, and you guys did a really good job with 301 as well with, you know, how you refinished and painted those architectural features where they really stand out even more so. So it's really good to see that continue down the block.
Yeah, it'll be a really good, attractive property.
Tiffany agrees with Justin's statement, if you didn't hear that.
Thanks, Tiff.
So
Would that fire?
you are scheduled for zoning this month, and you're going,
So this is similar to the last one,
Similar to
with
the
the
last
partial first floor commercial and parking.
So what is the parking plan then with the parking spaces? Are they designated for each unit? There's not one for each unit.
That's right, yeah. I guess it's the first 25, they have their spaces, but once you get to number 26, then we're.
So you are going to have one designated for 25 units? Or it's just whoever parks wherever?
Yeah, the parking.
It always is. Yeah.
Yeah, we're downtown commercial, and Mike Robb is our attorney as well. He'll be here at the zoning hearing, of course. So you'll see in our application, you know, he likes to use the wording to the extent necessary. So we're covering ourselves here with the zoning hearing board, you know. So parking is the number one issue for this project, or could be. So there's 37 apartments, 25 spaces. In terms of, I think it's going to be whoever first 25 tenants.
Yeah.
But you have to decide that.
Running the 26th unit.
So
no parking,
Yeah.
So you have,
No inside.
no inside.
Whether, it won't be temperature controlled, but you won't be going out into the rain or snow.
You
or
don't have to
anything.
clean ice and snow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good.
But as the downtown commercial zoning kind of covers and touches on, and we'll be, you know, digging into that more with the zoning hearing board, but obviously, if you can go to the one that shows the radius.
would be like slide 6 or so. So in your ordinance, you have a section that talks about when there's an existing deficit in parking from the prior use. So you have the existing commercial, the existing hotel that had 48 rooms, and the restaurant that was there prior. What that does is it legally provides a deficit that's applicable to the existing commercial hotel and restaurant and then we can use that in our application for the land development plan. So right now there should require no additional off-street parking from a zoning legality standpoint. In reality, we're going to be short of 12 spaces if there's one space per apartment unit. So we are working out the finalization of that calculation, and that'll be refined as when we present to the zoning hearing board, because we also need to account for the existing restaurant that was in there and the number of seats and so forth.
Mhm.
So if we don't meet this requirement or with this exemption, with this deficit, then we'll be needing to ask for a variance or a special exception to the parking itself, the parking number by a few spaces.
Luckily, all the booths are still in the restaurant, so we can get an accurate count. We'll have photographs to document that. And you can see the borough lots in proximity that could be used that, you know, we would offer, but, you know, we're not looking to get out of 12 spaces. We'll continue to search and seek whether we can lease or buy an adjacent property to handle that.
it's just not available at the time. Obviously, we want good quality tenants, and, you know, they're going to be getting a good product for their money, and providing them with parking is important. So it's not something that, when we hopefully get our zoning matters approved and get through that process, we're not going to give up looking for those other spaces. So, and then you have the other side of it where you may have retired folks. We have some in our buildings now that don't even own a car, so they like the walkable community. So we feel that we may run into some of those instances too, where somebody's looking at an apartment and they're not interested in any parking because they don't own a car. A lot of millennials are doing the Uber stuff, and so that all kind of changes the game a little bit when it comes to parking, which is helpful. But yeah, the existing lots and places around, we feel that will provide that need, that relief.
Yeah, the ground floor parking lot, I'm surprised how many spaces you're able to get in there. So
Yeah.
that's good. That's a lot more than I would have imagined.
That was key, was to get that on site, so we pushed for every space we could get in there.
So Mr. Grubb's approach is that you may or may not need this relief. It's probably a matter of interpretation, I think is what you're saying. We'll leave that to the zoning hearing board, whether, you know, how they want to interpret it, and then whether the variances or special exceptions are needed from
We
there.
may be able to prove that we legally meet it
Right.
from what the ordinance allows.
Gotcha.
So we're refining that calculation, but if we do need something that is very minimal in
Yep.
terms of legally what we need as far as additional parking spaces. But the fact of the matter is there's still 12 people that need to park somewhere off site. But again, we're a downtown commercial district, and
Right.
this is a continued situation in the borough, as you know.
And the final variance, which is the time extension, that makes sense. A lot of larger projects or complicated projects. The extra year, what that gives you 2 years to pull the permits and 3 to complete construction from the approvals?
Yeah, I just know they were asking for an additional year, Justin. I'm not quite sure exactly what the total amount is, but just in case, added a year to each one of those to make sure that we.
I think it's 1 and 2. The default is 1 year and 2 years. So is that enough?
Yeah.
And the rest are pretty straightforward. In fact, the one, we were just being cautious as we made the application to meet the timing deadline for the zoning hearing board next following Wednesday. So
Sure.
the bulk one, we most likely meet all that. We will not need that one to 2026. But the rest, we're looking for you to recommend approval to move forward to the zoning hearing board.
So then, at some point, we will be coming back for request for demolition, which we would recommend. That has changed. We now make the recommendation
To
to council. They have final say on demolitions. Where do you stand with our review, since you are not changing the facade?
That would come after the zoning. Before, obviously, we would pull a permit. We do want to keep this moving as long as there's no uptick or changes in the world, but our intentions are to get started right on this. So obviously, when we go to pull the permit, we will, of course, be going through the land development process first, but at that time, we'll have the plans that we can submit to HARB for their review and recommendation.
Okay.
So we're hoping to see you again in April
Yeah.
with the land development plan, and Derek will have comments and so forth at that time.
Okay, so he will have it prior to our review, that he will have his comments for us in April.
Yes.
When you get me the plan, Brian.
All
right.
Okay, at this time, any further questions? If not, wishes of the commission regarding the zoning hearing for the properties at 307, 309, 315 Locust Street for the requested variances, exemptions regarding primarily parking. The permitted uses in the non-residential district, the variance on the time limits on permits, and the off-street parking. Do I have a motion regarding a recommendation to the zoning hearing board on those issues?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the requested relief if they are necessary.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion from Justin, nice and simple. To recommend the relief
And I'll second that.
as needed. Have a motion from Justin, second from Tiff. Wishes of the commission, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Aye, we have it. Okay, motion carries unanimous. I will plan on attending the zoning hearing on Tuesday.
Thank you.
So I'll see you guys then.
This project is long overdue, but it looks like it'll be well worth the wait. Looks beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on, next on our agenda is 1200 Locust Street, Luther Care. This is finally coming back to us now that the council has approved the rezoning of that small piece of property on 12th Street that none of us were aware was part of this parcel.
Right, none of us were aware
That it was two
that it
parcels.
was two parcels and the one did not get rezoned.
Right.
So, now that that is taken care of, we're before you for the land development plan, Luther Care is proposing on what was the Columbia Pool property, 14 twin units, as they're called in the duplexes. So it's 7 buildings, and they will be part of the Luther Care community, although the property will be kept separate from the campus of the Luther Care community. The diagonal line you see going across the top of the page, that's the common property line with the existing campus. And if you pan down just a teeny bit, you can, well, the other way, sorry. Those are existing cottages that you can see that are on the existing campus. So if you go in on Locust Street and make a right-hand turn, those are the first cottages you see there. So the proposal is to create a small alley that goes through, loops through, comes off of 12th Street on the south side and loops around and comes back out onto Locust. So we would be utilizing the existing cartway that used to go down to the pool there. And there is a central green in between the units that come across the page. It's units 1 through 4, and then I think it's 10 through 14. That there is a walking path on both sides. So the front door of those units is really intended to be on the green. So that there is a walkway on both sides and then a connection in between. You'll notice on the south side there is a set of stairs, and it's because of the grade. If you've gone down 12th Street, there is a significant grade drop. So there are stairs there, but that sort of curly-Q shaped walk that goes through the middle, that is ADA accessible. So someone who has mobility issues can get from the top to the bottom and the bottom to the top without going up those stairs. So we've gone through the review with Derek. Most of the comments that are outstanding are administrative, and a lot of those in the time where the rezoning was being taken place. Actually, we have gotten the approvals from LASA and the module exemption, and we are still waiting for the NPDS permit. Yeah, I'm not sure if you remember, the stormwater is being taken care of in the existing basin on the existing campus. And as a cooperative effort with the borough, there are some storm pipes that are being redirected into that basin. Because of that, DEP views this as a regional basin. So it went through the Conservation District review. We addressed all their comments, and because it's a regional basin, it went to DEP for their review also. So we have gotten, last week, we got DEP's comments.
They didn't originally say you had to do that, did they?
No, they didn't.
I recall that meeting.
Yeah, Derek was in on that meeting, and they said do X, Y, and Z, and you'll be good. And then when we got through the process with the Conservation District, they said, oh, by the way, DEP wants to review this also.
You did X, Y, and Z, but we're going to add A, B, and C.
Exactly. But we did get comments, and it's nothing major to the comments. They're not changing anything substantial in the design. So we are currently addressing those, and that should be the last item we need there. One of the outstanding comments was whether the township would require trees along 12th Street. We're not opposed to providing trees along 12th Street. It is kind of a tight space in there. So if the borough would like to have trees in there, would flowering ornamental trees, not large street trees, be sufficient, is the question that I had for you there.
You call your wife, Justin?
Talk to the boss.
I think we'd like to see something there,
Yeah.
and I think
Small ornamental. I think.
small ornamentals, and as was said, Justin's wife is chair of the Shade Tree Commission.
Okay.
You know,
Hence the reference to his wife. Okay.
to touch base with her or with the commission itself, not necessarily her, but to touch base with the Shade Tree Commission for some recommendations. You know, just something to break it up a little bit there, to maybe make it a little more welcoming even for the residents to come in there.
Yeah, Luther Care does do a pretty good job of providing landscaping at their cottages. But I can certainly contact the Shade Tree Commission and see what their thoughts are.
I had two questions.
Yes.
When you were originally to us in June, there were a couple comments made. One of them was regarding sidewalks on Locust Street. And the comment at that time, the answer that came back was that not owning the property there at 1300 Locust Street, you didn't want to put that there was a question about putting sidewalks in to connect. Because there is no sidewalk along 12th Street.
Right.
There is now, I think.
No, there's not a proposed sidewalk on 12, because these units kind of.
On Locust.
Yeah, Locust.
Yeah, on Locust.
There's
Is there a sidewalk on Locust now?
No, there is
What is-
not. And we are proposing sidewalks.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
You have it as a plan.
Along our
Yeah, I
frontage,
see it right
yes.
there.
Yeah.
All right.
So it kind
Good.
of,
You're showing it to the next driveway.
Okay.
I'll interject, I think that makes sense to not have the sidewalk on 12.
Well, right.
You don't want to encourage anyone to walk there and you have an internal sidewalk,
Yeah.
which would
The
connect.
sidewalk
Out to
on
Locust.
Locust.
Yeah.
yeah, and so basically we're going from 12 the intersection with 12, up to the driveway of the neighboring property.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks good.
And then I think you do have sidewalk on your property once you get up to 13th Street.
Correct.
So it would just be the area there where the current
The whole property,
whole property.
yeah.
And then another comment was about the possibility of a walking path connecting
We looked at that.
from the back there.
Yeah, and the grades are such that it's not really conducive to connect a walking path.
I just wanted to bring these up. These were some comments that were made at our, June meeting, which was when we really
Yeah, and then
saw this.
we went back and we worked on the plans and we looked at it and we said, okay, yep, this is what we're gonna do. And I completely forgot that both of those comments had come up, even though we had worked through them. Yeah, the grades are such, people would be going down
Yeah,
kind of
it
a steep
does.
embankment. It's
It
not,
does.
it's not real conducive to make a connection there.
Is the area where you have the driveway going in off of 12, in that little roundabout, and your green court area, is that more or less where the pool was? Where I'm coming from is that was filled in, now, has that been looked at as to build on top of that fill?
So Luther Care is actually the one who filled that in.
Okay.
They had already purchased the
Because you
property
purchased it.
when the pool was demolished. They knew they wanted to do something and they felt it was a hazard at that point to have the pool there, because people from the community would walk their dogs and, take walks through it, and so they didn't want the empty pool sitting there and then a vacant building that they weren't using. So they actually had a contractor, the geotechnical engineer, when they were doing the fill, they did it in lifts to make sure that it was going to be suitable for buildings, because they knew they wanted to do something on this property.
Perfect.
Good. It was just one of those things I
Right.
thought, how well was that compacted, could it handle buildings?
Somebody
Correct.
dumping stumps. and
Yeah, right.
bricks and things like that in there.
Exactly.
Thank you for that answer.
Yep. Any other questions?
I don't have any. Are we looking for approvals tonight?
I don't
I
have
would
an issue
be.
with that. Yeah, Joyce has been to a lot of meetings. I commented to her before this started.
Most everything is administrative that's left.
Yeah, so the last review that you have was from October.
Right.
There is a stormwater letter and there's also a land development letter. I think the only technical related comment on the land development letter is I don't think I've seen a lighting plan.
That's the number 10.
Right.
So.
I'll have to follow up on that.
So I would anticipate I'll see one more large submission here after you address DEP's comments. And of course, I'm comfortable, wait until you submit to DEP, get that ironed out, and then if you want to get everything together as a final copy and send it over, I'm comfortable with that. I think we're at the point here where if there are any changes on the plan, they wouldn't be anything significant that would change what you would see, so.
Do you still need the waiver of the preliminary plan?
We do,
Yes.
unless you want to see me again.
You're friendly. Yeah, that's a question.
There are some people we don't, if that makes you feel better.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
You want me to go up here, or you're fine with me here?
I'm fine with you there.
Okay, and this is probably, Derek, for you and for you.
Joyce.
I heard you talk about the stormwater,
Yes.
but so that I understand, and mainly the residents up there understand this, and so that we can speak to this, I need a little better understanding. Our storm sewer ends right at the edge of your property, there's a manhole. I know you're very familiar with it.
Yes.
And when there's a gutter gusher, that water blows up out of that manhole.
Yes.
And then if the storm sewer then continues on in daylights and goes through that piece of property. Now, I heard you say that you're gonna take that and put that in the basin.
Yes. So
That's going uphill.
So what we have is you have two different systems. You guys hear me okay? So you have two different systems that converge on the pool property right now.
Yes.
One system you're very familiar with is the system we'll call the Chestnut Street Ironville system. This is the project we completed last year, coming off of the Ironville Pike. So that system comes down, crosses Chestnut Street, comes down, bends at a 90, runs along 13th until it hits Locust. It's at that point that system turns 90 degrees and starts heading towards town, okay? At that point, before it would turn into town, they are capturing that system and rerouting it to the stormwater basin.
Okay.
So the system that's coming down from Ironville Pike through what we'll call the 12th Street system off of 12th, that is going to continue to come down through and be captured and managed to the property, but you are cutting off over half of the flow that currently comes through here right now. Managing that in a stormwater basin, the large basin that's in, we're lucky because the Luther Care Basin was designed when, basins were way too big, basically. So that has been reconfigured to meet current regs. We're routing the water through they are routing the water through the basin and then discharging it in Shawnee Run.
And the reason that was.
Well, excuse me, but the others, where will that go to? Because they're converging at that manhole.
So the water that's through there will still be a bypass through the property.
It actually comes to a point here, and this is actually kind of flat.
Yeah.
And it will go up there to the basin. It's actually, it bugs stream a little bit, but it
You're gonna split them and reroute them both to the basin.
Yeah, right now they converge and they'll be split.
And
And then they'll tie back in at the end wall.
Yeah, and one of the reasons that spouts up in due storms is because as the pipes went through the pool property, they got smaller.
Oh, yes.
And that's not the way.
I'm very familiar with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I was familiar with it when it was a creek going down through there. So, and they just covered it in with a pipe. Yes, okay, thank you very much. I wanted to understand it, I understand it, and I think we can get that information to the residents that the geyser shouldn't be anymore once you're done.
Right.
Yeah, for posterity, the inlet that's located at the 13th Street and Locust Street intersection where the Chestnut Street Ironville system bends and makes a 90-degree turn.
Yes.
That's an 18-inch pipe.
Yes.
The pipe that we replaced at the northern part of the system was sized to be 36.
Yes.
So
That was up at the beginning of,
correct.
The beginning of 14th Street.
You have 36-inch pipe coming off of Ironville Pike now, and it comes down to a 13-inch, or an 18-inch, excuse me.
Oh, that's a Norwood Street.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Are you good, Leo?
I'm good, that's a wonderful job.
Okay. Okay, Justin, would you care to make a motion, because you do go with these motions?
First, you need to act on the waiver if you haven't acted on it. If you haven't acted on the waiver yet.
I don't remember acting on the waiver.
No, because the only time you have been to us really was June.
Like a concept.
It was
And that was a concept, so we have never
Well, and
really
then,
made any motion.
and then I think we might have been here about the rezoning, but that was
Yes.
it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
because from June, all we did was be back making a full submittal for a future meeting,
Yeah.
and that's where it ended in June.
Right.
So should we do the waiver separately?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so I'll make a motion to grant a waiver of the requirement to submit a preliminary plan before the final plan.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from
Okay.
Annette. Okay. All in favor of the waiver of preliminary plan Motion carries unanimous.
Okay, then I'll make a second motion to approve the preliminary / final land development plan for 1200 Locust Street, subject to the conditions in the borough engineer's review letter.
I'll second that also.
I'll second that.
Annette beat you.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the final plan pending the borough engineers.
Subject to the borough engineer's conditions.
Conditions. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing this move forward. This was an exciting night here.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of progress.
A lot of progress here.
I think the jump on to the point the mayor made is that it is worth complimenting Luther Care and RGS for working with the borough on this project. We came to a stormwater scenario here that benefited both parties here. But of course, anytime the borough can benefit from a private development is a win. So I want to thank Joyce and her team at RGS and Len Bradley there for working with us on this. And
Absolutely.
it's been a long time. We've been talking about this for over a year.
We have been.
Yeah, so it's great that it came.
Yeah, they would like to get moving in the spring on constructing the cottages, so,
Wow.
yeah.
That's, I was just going to say, do you have a timeline? You just answered my question there.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Comp plan ad hoc committee update. Do you want to update anybody, Laura?
Just to say, it was a successful meeting. They did a video explaining the difference between comprehensive and implementable plans. And that got us all focused and on the same page, and I'm excited to move forward. It's going well.
So what I look forward to is your being able to have that meeting at 6 o'clock and not having to say you're really into something and, oh, we have to stop because of our meeting in back of you. That you're going to be able, if you really get into the meat of something, you're going to be able to move on and gain some momentum with your work there. Okay, thank you very much. Project updates. I usually come in the week ahead and Deb and Sharon and I sit down and go over the agenda for our meeting. And two of the things that I brought up in our discussion that day was that prior to COVID and everything happening, we were planning on working on updating our official map, which has kind of fallen by the wayside. And also the need to do the zoning permitted uses changes to those tables, which we promised people we were going to do when we did that zoning map revision, and that kind of fell by the wayside. So one of the things that we discussed is these are two things that we feel are part of the comp plan. These are things that have to be taken in as part of the comp plan and addressed with that also. So just to let people know, this hasn't gone by the wayside. It's still on our plate. It's not something we are not going to do. We are going to do it. It's just like everything else is getting so dug out right now.
I know.
And with doing the comp plan, it seems like it would be a waste of time to work on an official map and to work on those updates without seeing the direction our comp plan is going to take us.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's where we stand. We haven't forgotten it. It's still a work in progress. And the other thing here, one of the under new business here the fences amendment.
Yeah,
I am so happy to see this.
yeah.
Leo knows I was on council when this happened. I fought this. I am so glad to see it go away.
Yes.
And what it was there was a requirement that the fence could not be placed on the property line. It had to be placed so many feet off the property line unless the adjoining property owners agreed to an easement. It was just to bring you up that that has happened.
Oh, did it get amended?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That was passed at the last council meeting?
Well, at the last council, yeah, at the 9th, it still has to go through, well, here, and then LASA, and then it still has to go through council. So it still has to go through the proper channels.
So
It was just approved on the 9th first.
Recommendation, planning commission. It's a method re-adopted. I would make that recommendation to our council to adopt the revisions to section 220, to chapter 220, section 31 regarding fencing.
That's right.
Would I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Tiff makes a second. Okay. Any comment on that?
Oh, please do it. Where I'm zoning officer, we went through the same thing. It was 1 foot. And people, especially in like the newer lots where homes were getting built, you had these 2-foot strips and people complain about the other guy about not.
Maintaining.
Oh, it was terrible. And I mean, here I'm a person that built a fence 6 inches from my property line. The thing is, you know, I think we tried to protect these scenarios where the neighbor wouldn't let you go on the other side to maintain it.
Yeah.
But it was never enough space to properly maintain it. I mean, you try painting or restaining something in a 2-foot space, you know, I mean, it's just not practical. So I think we're just relying upon neighbors to work with each other, which is perfectly fine. We can't save everybody from everything. So.
Okay, the motion has been made to recommend council the adoption of the changes to this ordinance regarding fences. Do I have a all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, if we could see that that recommendation was made to council. I don't know, how many of you received notice from Faith Gaddis about their winter 2021 Places 2040 implementation workshops? This area, they're focusing on growing responsibly in rural areas. And they are holding them at different areas. Ours would be, for the metro area, it would be February 23rd down at the Farm and Home Center. But I also received information that they will be doing these virtually. So if you would like that information, if you have not gotten it, I will just send it out to you.
Okay.
I will send you the email that I received from Faith. I really did not plan on going to this since it's focusing mainly on rural areas. But if any of you would be interested, I will send you the information on it. Okay? Is there anything else before we call for adjournment?
I have 2 things. I hope
That's
it's okay. The one thing is that I wonder if we would consider having alternate members, I guess that's what they're called, of the planning commission, or substitute, where they, so that if one of us isn't here, they would just step in and become a voting member?
We can, under the MPC, have alternate members. At this time, we are trying to get another member, a regular member. If that can be put out there again, we are still looking for, we are down a member.
Oh, I didn't
At
realize
this
that.
point.
Okay,
We should have a 7-member board.
okay.
And we have been down for over, well, since Jeff left, so it's.
So we should be looking for another.
Down member.
Okay.
But the MPC does allow for alternates, and it is something that I think once we get to full number, it is something we should try for.
Okay, all right.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, and the other thing is, whenever developers come in, I'm wondering if we're missing something. And in the comp plan, the first comp plan, it talks about fee in lieu, that we can request that developers dedicate land for the proposed development of recreation uses. And there's been a lot of development going on, and we seem to have a lack of, there seems to be a lot of community voices saying we need more places, we need more parks, more linear parks, more pocket parks. And I'm wondering is, as these developers come, are we missing an opportunity to, to present that to them as a possibility of providing parkland or something in lieu of something else?
What does the ordinance say?
I was just gonna say, Barb, I'll take a look. I think the issue is that it can be an objective in your comp plan, but it isn't enforceable unless it's in your subdivision land development ordinance.
Okay.
And I don't believe it is.
It's in the zoning ordinance.
And I don't.
Well, it wouldn't be not for a development, it wouldn't be. The zoning ordinance would regulate what you can do with the land. The dedication
Usually it's in
the dedication of recreation land would be a condition of a development plan, which would be regulated by your saldo.
The way it reads is, in lieu of parking, you can, a fee in lieu of parking that can be used for those type projects.
So that's,
Oh,
yeah, so
yeah, parking.
parking, yeah.
Park, like,
It's in the zone.
No, she's saying parkland, not parking.
Yeah. But you're right, yeah, so the zoning does have the parking standards, but like for recreation space.
It's a
the
different.
SADO would have that. It is, okay, so we do have a fee in lieu of,
Okay.
because the default is that the developer has to provide the land
Right.
but that's not always practical, so they can pay a fee
So
instead
if-
that goes
if
towards.
it's not practical for them to provide the land.
Yeah,
Right.
which it rarely is in town.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's in your current saldo. Do you know, Sharon? I don't think it
I
is.
did come across it.
Okay.
It is. It's in there.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll take a look at it.
Yeah, we'll take a look at
A lot of times that is also dictated by the type of development.
Right.
Residential.
Usually it's only
Right,
for
like
residential.
commercial, it wouldn't,
No.
but
Yeah,
Right.
It would be residential.
And has that fee been established?
We'll have to look. It would state, it would say it in the ordinance.
It would either say it in the ordinance or that would be established by resolution.
Separate fee schedule.
So
That's
it's likely.
And I think that's what it
it. It doesn't
Okay.
live in the ordinance, the establishment of the fee, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
So
would
the
it
fee
would
would be
it
a
would be
separate
by
resolution.
resolution.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happened down with Bank Avenue and Locust Street, that there was supposed to be a fee in lieu of the parking down there, and it was never followed through because there was no figure.
Yeah, it's spelled out on the zoning laws.
No,
Yeah, the
yeah.
parking there is, but I don't think there's not a rec, let's not confuse parking with rec.
Rec space.
Parking there is,
Yeah.
but for recreation.
They're parking, we've given that for, developers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's the land, the park land that may be in question.
Right.
So I guess the project here by Luther Care could potentially be brought in for rec land since it's residential. But outside of that, I'm not really sure what you've had here as of late that would qualify as, yeah, obviously this one coming up, but
No,
up
you're
until
right.
up until this point,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
And the thing is with Luther Care, after what they've done for us with stormwater.
Well, yeah,
Okay.
take a look at that.
Thank you, Barb. Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Our citizen left us. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll second. Oh, I'll move.
Okay, I have a motion from Mark. Do I have a second?
Jeff?
Tiff, you want a second?
Oh, sure. I'll move that we adjourn. I know that was comfortably from Paul there, sorry.
No further discussion, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned
Aye.
at 8:44.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Hey, take care, guys.
Yeah, Brad, be careful.
Yeah.